One of the curious things about the life of St. Teresa of Avila is that she died on 2 different days, and not in the way that you might be thinking. It seems that for most of its history, the Church, and therefore Europe, used the calendar that it had inherited from the Roman Empire. But as the Renaissance progressed and there was the need for more precision in dating for a variety of reasons, they decided to redo the calendar. And so on October 4th, 1560, they switched calendars. People went to bed on the 4th and they woke up on the 15th to discover that 11 days had evaporated. Teresa of Avila died on the 4th, and yet we commemorate her on the 15th for this reason. I'm interested in this idea that time just disappeared. I think in it is a useful reminder to you and me as Christians how easy it is for that to happen. How many people do we know who go to bed on the day they are confirmed and somehow find themselves waking up to discover they're collecting Social Security without having matured much in the meantime or changed in the meantime or had anything meaningful happen in the meantime? I mean, to quote one modern philosopher, time slips away and leaves you with nothing except boring stories. Maybe not even the boring stories. Maybe we have nothing to show for the time. That is certainly not the case with Teresa of Avila. She had a very active life, a very tempestuous life. She lived in a time of great social change and social energy. She originally joined a convent that she considered to be a little bit too relaxed. And so she wanted to start a new branch of the same religious order that was much stricter, much poorer, much more rigid or rigorous in its religious observances and its commitment to poverty and to hard work and to service. And she was resisted in this. They almost referred her to the Inquisition for her nerve in wanting to start a religious order that was actually poor. In the end, however, other cooler heads prevailed and she was permitted to do this. And by the time she died, at a fairly old age actually for her time, she had started 17 new convents and monasteries around Spain. And her works of religious devotion, mysticism, works about the practice of prayer, and all these things have come down to us and are still considered to be treasures of Christian literature. Certainly, she is a good example to you and to me because early in her life, she had deep concerns about her own sinfulness, her own limitations. And it was only after she read St. Augustine and saw how he had spent his early life that she decided that maybe it was okay for her as well only to be coming to faith later. She also had great difficulty praying. At the time, I hesitate even to say this to this particular audience, it was considered inappropriate for women to pray extemporaneously. They thought it was too hard for them. St. Teresa of Avila broke that mold and convinced the church that everyone should pray in a familiar way with God. Have a conversation with someone who is a friend, is what she said. How many of us are deeper into our spiritual lives for that advice than we might be otherwise? So, we know there was no time lost in her life. There can be no time lost in our lives either. Let us hope that we don't wake up one day and find that far too much time has passed without our having stored up at least a few spiritual riches. Reading St. Teresa would be far from the worst thing we could do. Let us remember her and her example and be thankful to God for it. Amen.